Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the You Soulful Genius podcast today. Today, I'm with another phenomenal woman. She is Sapphire Gray. Sapphire is an award-winning property investment and business coach, an expert for women with over 25 years experience in the area. Sapphire has over 19 certified qualifications, and she has won over 14 awards. This is just a few of the things that she's actually achieved. She has won America's Premier Experts Award for Content of Consumers and Journalists, National Academy of Best-Selling Authors, B. Mogul, one of the most influential and inspirational Black entrepreneurs in Britain today. She is a top 50 business consultant, Enterprise Nation. She's also got an award for top 50 influential Afro-Caribbean leaders in the UK. So she is a woman of many, many talents. She's also a best-selling author. Welcome so much to the show, Sapphire. I'm really honored to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Okay, I know you bring a lot of wonderful magic to the world. Share with our audience, what do you do? How do you impact people? How do you work your magic in the world?
I help busy professionals become more financially independent by empowering them to build additional revenue through investing in property, which in turn allows them to have control over their finances and their future. This helps them to build out a legacy for their families going forward.
That is lovely. That is really lovely. So how did this journey begin? Did you just start as, a huge, successful businesswoman? How did it begin?
Well, my journey began, I was a young teen mother. I had my first child at 14 and decided that I didn't want to be a stereotype. So I didn't want to be a Black single mother living on benefits. So I decided to really go back and educate myself. I wasn't one for school when I was supposed to be in school, but I decided that education was really key and pivoted me in the direction that I needed to go. So I started to really educate myself in business and took all my school exams. So I passed all of those. And then from there, I just started to really get all the qualifications I needed to build myself out as an entrepreneur because I was starting from the starting block of zero. So I built my education, got all my qualifications, and started my journey because I wanted my children to recognize that hard work does pay off, but you can do hard work for yourself. So I
That
wanted to
is
build up my own business.
that is lovely. That is so inspiring, coming from where you came from.
Yeah.
So what gave you that courage? I mean, did you have somebody who championed you and said to you, you have to do this? Or did you just think, no, I don't want to be a stereotype. I need to do something. What was that force? How did it happen? Because it's not easy for people to make that decision. How did you get to making that decision?
Well, basically, I came across an article, whether it be true or not, but it says if you want to keep it from a Black person, put it in a book. And I felt that was very disrespectful. So I took that as I need to read. I need to get out there. I need to educate myself. I need to really gain knowledge as to what is being kept from us then as a Black person. But as a woman, I always used to see in the business space, so it was dominated by men. And women tended not to have that financial savviness about them. So I really wanted to understand what it is that was keeping us women back. Being a parent is wonderful, it's a blessing. But also I saw the other side to it, also owning your own business. So I went through learning from other coaches, but it took me a long time to really develop myself. And there wasn't no one that was holding my hand. A bit of background about me, I was in a children's home. So I didn't have any support in that respect. So I came from a long process of learning about who I was and also developing myself as a businesswoman that I am today.
Wow, 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 wow. That is so powerful. I mean, that inspiration, all of those things that helped you You must be a really strong woman. I can see. I mean, for you to build all this, successful business. So yeah, how do you help people in your business? I know you help a lot of people with investment,
Yeah.
financial stability, wealth, growing wealth, and that sort of thing. So how do you really render these services to people?
Well, basically, I'm dubbed as the hand-holding coach because I believe that sometimes you just need someone to champion you and believe in you and be that cheerleader. I always use the word cheerleader. So I like to sort of cheer on any clients, any person in matter of fact, just to say you are capable of doing it. So my coaching methods is more around how can you process a situation, and I always make sure that there's three areas in life that we always have to cover when we're working through our business, and that's our personal journey, our business journey, and our family journey. So I always make sure that they all work hand in hand with one another. So that's my kind of model. Is I always call it the SG times three model, because without all of those areas working in sync with one another, um, it really does have an impact on each area. So I always make sure that they're really working together.
That is great. And, with that, your model, as well as learning from your story, I know you're somebody who has really grown with your mindset.
Mhm.
So tell me, what insight can you give about the mindset that you adopted that kept you taking actions and that you needed to accomplish the goals that you've accomplished so far?
I really had to develop a positive um, mindset, because there's things that can knock you back in life, and then you feel I'm going to give up. And I always use this kind of analogy that if you sit at your window every day and look outside, you'll still see the world passing you by. And you can sit there in your own stew and sort of not even really recognize that things are happening without you even being present. So I always say, if you want to see things happen with you being present, you need to be out there. So it's developing that mindset of being positive and believing in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, that doesn't help you to build strength. I built my strength through building my confidence, and taking a cue from other experts and looking at how business is developed and looking at how our personal personalities are developed as well. So I always look to having a positive way of action and writing things down. I keep a log of how I am. How do I feel today? How do I, what is my emotion today? And then how do I work through that? Because it's about working through things as well.
Lovely. You see, so many women want to be like you. So many women want to develop that confidence. They want to
Mm.
grow that mindset, but they don't understand. They don't know where to start, how to start, who to go to. What would you say to these women? What should their first step be? What should they do? Yeah, like you said, they should step out and, go doing things. How do they get about doing that?
Well, the step I took, I looked in the mirror every day. When I woke up, I looked in the mirror and I said, it's a new day and I can do this. And it's basically using convincing techniques. So you're convincing yourself that you can achieve what you set out to do. So every time I told myself that and I wrote it down, it happened. And I said, it doesn't matter if I do one small task, it's a task that I've achieved to do. So I always write down a task of things that I need to do for the week. And then as I do them, even if it's one, I'd tick it off and say, yep, I've done that. But the biggest thing that I've learned to do is reward myself. So everyone likes to get a present, everyone likes to buy a gift, or everyone likes to go shopping. So I always say, this is what you have to do when you're looking at trying to build your confidence, is to take one small step forward. So write it down. Remind yourself by looking in the mirror that you are capable of doing this. And then say, what is my reward if I do it going to be at the end of the month? And then when you achieve those small milestones, your gifts get bigger, and you kind of feel, you know what, I've achieved that milestone. I can now buy myself a gift. So when you're gifting yourself something, you're basically virtually patting yourself on the back and saying, well done, because you're saying that I've managed to write it down. I've looked at myself and said, I can do it. And then I can gift myself once I've achieved it.
That is super powerful because you know what? A lot of people, we can do that for other people, say children or, you know, other people and say, oh, they've done well. But
Yeah,
so many people forget to do that to themselves. And
true.
maybe when we begin to, you know, gift ourselves things practically like that, you know,
Yeah.
we get motivated to go the next step. Okay,
Hmm.
so let's talk about your business.
Hmm.
What do you do? How do you help work with people to increase wealth, to get investment, to become savvy, to become a savvy woman? Really, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, let us get into that gist.
Okay. So basically, I created this methodology that in order to process through investing in property, you have to understand what strategy suits you. So I created a 7-part module, which is the Savvy Women Success Path. And you basically go through each module. The modules are broken down into areas of your, like it introduces you to actual investments, and then it goes on to looking at your personality as well. Who are you as a woman? Because when you look at you as a woman, say for instance, you wanted to go into um, doing single lets and to professionals, then you know the type of property strategy that would suit you, because based off, I don't want headaches, I don't want tenants to give me headaches. So you just want a hands-off approach on your development through property. So I teach each client, what is it that you like about yourself and what is it that you like about people? That then leads into what you like about the property strategy that you want to go into. Does that make sense?
It
Because it's
really
like,
does make
yeah,
sense. Yes, it really does
because a
make
lot
sense.
of yeah, because a lot of people don't understand. They get into property, they jump and said, well, I want to get into investments, but they actually don't understand the process of it. So I really wanted to take them through a handhold approach into learning each step by step what you need to do to get into property investment in a safe way and in a safe environment, where to get your funding from, how to get your legals done, how to create your wealth through these 7-step process. And it is really a simple formula that they do each module each month, and they're just creating their business. It's not just teaching theory as well. It's all about going into the practical side, because by the end of it, they have their actual company set up and running, and they're knowing exactly what they want to do.
That is great because a lot of people are really and truly confused about it. I mean,
Mhm.
people say, I want to get into investment. They don't have this step-by-step guide. They don't understand what to do. And unfortunately, they just rumble into it and, you know, they don't find it so interesting. I think that is a great contribution you're making to people. So, um, investment, there are so many myths about property investment.
Mhm.
So I would like you to break down some. Who is able to dabble or go into investing in property? Is it anybody? Is it just any woman who wants to? Or do you have category of people who can actually come in and say, yes, I want to get into business, I want to invest? Must you have a particular, maybe social status, that sort of thing, for you to be able to
No,
invest in it?
not at all. Social status has nothing to do with investments.
Oh,
Education has nothing to do with investments, because you
okay.
can learn. What I would say that has different categories is your financial status. Now, if you're getting into property and you want to hold the asset, then you need a deposit and you need to cover your associated costs. So yes, you're going to need money to get into doing property. There is other models that is classed as control properties, where you can rent a property from a landlord and then turn that into a HMO. So it'd be rent to HMO, or rent to service accommodation, but you control the asset rather than own that asset. Now that simply means that you're renting, you have to pay the landlord some money, and whatever you make over and above is yours to keep. But I'm an asset controller, so I like to hold my assets. So I always use funds to build those assets. Now, a lot of people, when they're looking to investments, they always start off in London or wherever they are. They start off in London and say, I want to buy assets in London. London has become quite unaffordable. So always say, look at the wider scope and see where your money and how far your money can stretch. So I always make sure that you're not just investing because that's a cheap place to invest. It's a good place to invest, but it's a lower entry point to put in your money. So there's no certain status levels of getting into investment. It's understanding what your strategy is and how much funds you do have or don't to get into it. So I always say build your education, then you can work through that. There's also opportunities once you start to understand it and learn how to invest in property. There's always other investments that you can actually go into, crowdfunding. There's other investors that would look at to invest in your business as well. So there is different opportunities you can present to yourself once you understand what you're actually doing. So I'd say that the first thing is to be educated. That's key.
Exactly, exactly. I just got that now, because when you talk about people who like to, like, for example, invest in London, I think it's because, one, they have an idea of that place, and because they don't have enough education to know that when you stretch further out, you probably have something better. So,
Absolutely.
what about in terms of proximity? People think maybe because my natural home is closer to a particular specific area, I'd like to invest in that area. What do you think? Would people rather, chance it and go further away from where they're living and, explore and see other things, or just stay in their local area that they're familiar with?
Well, I have investments in United States. I have investments closer to home in Liverpool. I live in Kent. So you can see the geographical differences. I don't mind investing different places so long as the returns are good. So long as if I'm renting it out, the rental yields are stacking. So long as I'm making a return, long-term financial gain from investing outside of my own area where I live or where I'm comfortable with. Sometimes that's why I said it's easy to look at London because it's an easy stretch, but then you realize that I can't afford to invest in London. So that's why I always say education is really key to developing yourself and getting yourself out there and saying, right, I now know what it takes for me to invest outside London, and I'm willing to travel because my returns are good. And don't forget, you can have a team of people around you that assist you if you do invest outside, that can support you looking after your property if you are living further away from it.
Wow. I think that still boils down to a lot of people not having that education, that knowing. Okay,
Mhm.
so with people who want to invest, because it's a way for them to, try to contribute to the world in a way. What one habit or practice do you think they should begin to like hold on to learn, so that it expands their world and they're able to like come into investing and building that empire they want to build?
Yeah, I always say it harks actually back to your credit status. So always look at your credit report. Look at what your credit status is. Do you have any CCJs? Do you have defaults? Have you been bankrupt before? Because all of these things will reflect on if you want to get a mortgage on the property that you want to invest in. So you have to look at that first. Then contact someone who is like a finance broker, because they are whole of market. And that simply means they have lenders out there that they work with that is not necessarily on your high street. So they could look at the best interest rates for the property that you want to get into. Then understanding the numbers is key. Once you understand the numbers, then you understand how much money you have to invest. So when you're looking at a property, it's normally 75% loan to value. That simply means if you own a property or looking at a property of 100,000, you need 25,000 pound deposit. However, you also need associated costs. Those associated costs could be solicitors' fees, survey fees, repairs if you're buying below market value, your broker fees. So there's different associated fees, and that could wrap up under anything. If it's repair fees, it could be anything 10,000. So you're looking at about another 15 to 20,000 on top of your deposit. So wrapping up around that, so you're looking at about 60,000 to get into one property that's costing you 100K. But your
Wow.
returns on selling the property could be high as well. So it's always looking at the 75% ratio and what the associated costs are. So know your numbers is the key point here.
Know your numbers. That is really important. Yes. Just say what you talked about, as in people getting to understand their credit, their credit score check. That is, I've had conversation with people who really have problems with that. Will
Yeah.
there be a particular practice how people can keep on top of their credit? What
Absolutely.
can they do to help them build that credit that gets them into the type of investment they would like to get into?
I always say there's always a starting place, and what you have to realize is that though you may have a lot of credit cards or credit that's available to you, it's not always a wise thing to continuously spend, especially spending on things like holidays or shoes or handbags or suits or anything that is just comforting you. That could be a cash buy, that could be on a debit card. When you're looking at doing credit and building your credit, always say, always have the money in your bank. If you're going to use on your credit card, that at the end of the month, you're paying it off in full. Never pay off the minimum amount on your credit cards. If you add up the amount that you would pay on a minimum amount over a period of time, you're actually paying back probably 20 times more than what you would have paid if you had paid it off in full. So always look at your credit and how you're using your credit. Now, for those who may have CCJs and defaults, they will drop off in a 7-year period. So you need to look at where you can improve yourself is on your spending habits. Looking at and monetizing how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. Never bury your head as well when it comes to if you are in a debt situation, contact your debtors. They are approachable. They will help you through it, and you can ask for them to reduce the amount of debt that is associated to you and stop the interest on it as well. So you can really get the assistance that you need to start improving your credit score. But always check monthly. I always check on my credit score on a monthly basis. I have my report updated and making sure that I'm doing the right things by my credit. And also make sure you're on the voters register. That is key, because if you're not on the voters register, they've got no way of tracking your history or movement of where you used to live. And every lender out there will always ask, are you on the voters register? Because they want to know that you've got stability. They want to know that you have been living in a place for a period of time, and you're not just moving for the sake of it. So make sure that you're on the voters register in order that it does reflect, and that does uplift your credit file as well.
Okay, that's really lovely. I know some people who really they're scared to check their credit score on a monthly basis. And I think that's due to the spending habits. That's not really, really great. Okay, so what is one lesson you have learned in your journey, to keep you on this path that you're on, that stands out as something that you will never forget and helps you to continuously build on who you are so other people can learn from that?
I think it has to be down into where I became very ill. And I ended up in hospital. And I said, what if? That was my first words. What if something happened to me? What would happen? My kids were very young then. What would happen to my kids? Did I have enough money? Did I have enough savings? Did I have, anything to leave behind so that they can benefit even if I passed? And there was nothing at that time. And I realized that if I don't build out my wealth, if I don't build my legacy, I will have no one at the time to have looked after my kids, and there would have been no money in the pot to do that for them. So I really had to now focus on not only building a robust business, but building a system which allowed me to have my daughters to have a legacy for them with the back of financial support as well. So I always made sure that I was on top of my credit and top of my finances to make sure that I could always have enough money left behind. So finances, being on top of them was my key thing, because I wasn't on top of it then, but I am definitely on top of it now and have been for many years.
Yes, that is good. I mean, so you must have put a lot of conscious effort into building that practice at that time, because you were like, oh no, if this happens,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't want that That's good. So what was it you put into building that business to make it, well, grow? Well, before then, what did you put into your business and growing it, with effort and every diligence to make it stand as it is now?
I created a plan, which I dubbed, everyone calls it a business plan, I call it the working plan. So I done a year working plan, then I broke that down into 90 days. What was I going to do over the next 90 days, and what revenue was I going to generate over the next 90 days? So every 90 days, I would review and look at where I was in my personal finances and my business finances. And I always wanted to make sure that I had a robust financial plan. So I invest in different things, and I call them hubs as well. So I always set aside, I have a bank account set aside specifically for savings, specifically for investments, specifically for different things. So make sure that when you're looking at your finances, you look at it from a different perspective. You say, right, this is what's coming in, and now I'm going to branch it off into different ways I can invest in to
That
make more
is
revenue.
that is
But
so awesome.
yeah,
And coming, reading through your story as in listening to you and the things you looked at most points in time, you've looked at yourself, you've looked at your situation and said to yourself, this is not what I want for myself. This is what I want for myself. You've taken serious decisions, wanting to be true to yourself, be
yeah,
who you really are, be authentic,
yeah.
and stay true to your purpose. So what do you wish that everybody knew about being true to themselves and their conscience, living authentically and being unstoppable?
Be you. Tell yourself the truth about you. If you have any weak areas, develop them. Ride off your strength, and always push yourself forward to do a better version of yourself. And always take critique as a positive rather than a negative. I found over the years that when people would feed back to me who I was, I used that as a platform to build myself, to make myself a better version of myself. But the one thing that I held there is told the truth to myself. So it was never about pretending that I was somebody. I didn't want to have this imposter syndrome, or I didn't want to feel like I was out and I could achieve things without getting and asking for help. Ask for help if that's what you need. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because when you ask for help, you get more benefits from asking for help than if you try to do it in isolation.
Well, Sapphire, you've been a great, like I've the privilege of having you here. You've shared so much nuggets and gems that I'm sure a lot of people listening are taken away, and when they watch as well will be taken away. So, and people will be eating. How do we contact you? How do we, get to know you more?
Uh, yeah, so if you need to contact me, I'm on social media. I would say 50 Savvy Women. That's all my social media handles. And you can contact me on www, or you can go to our website, www.savvywomen.co.uk, or you can reach out by email, contact@savvywomen.co.uk.
I'm definitely going to be adding all of that to the show notes. Yes, really, thank you for having you here. I mean, it's a privilege and an honor. Thank you so much for everything you've shared. Okay, so do you have any last word for anybody listening right now?
I just want you to feel that you're not alone. You're never alone. If you just reach out to someone and ask for help, there is help out there to help you build your confidence, to help you build the promise that you've made to yourself that you want to succeed. It's just have to ask and it will be delivered.
Wow, that's so powerful. Thank you so, so much. And it shows so much of, a soulful genius you are. So kind-hearted, how much you help other people. Thank you so much. And that's how we're going to be wrapping it up on today's episode of the You Soulful Genius podcast. To link with Sapphire, check the show notes. And yes, that'll be a great privilege, for you, because you're going to be getting so much from that. Thank you so much for having you here, Sapphire.
Thank you for having me.
So bye for now.
Bye for now.